Since I was little, I knew I had to try twice as hard just to earn half the attention. No one in my family had ever studied at an elite school. We were ordinary. My mom's a nurse, my dad's a driver. So when I got into a top academy on a scholarship, my parents were proud. And I was terrified. I moved to a new city, wore a brand new uniform, chasing a dream that didn't even feel like mine. Everyone around me seemed to come from a different world. Phones, confidence, polished speech. Everything about me screamed outsider. I tried to stay invisible, but even being invisible takes effort. Every morning felt like theater. Hide the accent. Hide the fear. Hide that you don't belong. During breaks, I'd hide in the library. My hair was always tied back in a ponytail to keep it from getting in the way of watching who might be staring. Usually, no one. Math was the worst. Not because I didn't understand, but because everyone else already did. And they knew I didn't. The teacher looked through me like I wasn't even there. I started avoiding eye contact, stopped raising my hand, even when I knew the answer. My parents saw my grades drop. They didn't yell. They just said, "We want to help. We found you a tutor. He's an upperclassman from your school. His name is Nick." I didn't expect much. I didn't believe anyone from that perfect world could treat me like a person. He showed up for our first session in a baggy beige hoodie, like he had just rolled out of bed. His hair was a mess, and his eyes, calm, like nothing could shake him.
"You're Mia?"
He asked. Yeah, I nodded. He sat across from me in the library and said,
"Don't worry, I explain things like a normal person. No fancy words, no attitude. Let's figure this out together."
For the first time in weeks, I smiled. A real smile. Nick was easy to be around. He didn't talk over me, didn't rush. Even when I messed up, he just said,
"Mistakes are like pencil marks. You erase them. Try again. No big deal."
He turned formulas into stories. We laughed, solved problems. And then we started talking about more than math. Movies, childhood memories, fears. He told me about the time he hid in a janitor's closet to avoid singing in music class. The library, once silent and cold, became warm, familiar. I started looking forward to our sessions, not to get better at algebra, but to see him. Around him, I didn't feel broken. I felt enough. Sometimes he brought me tea, sometimes chocolate. Once, without a word, he placed a bookmark on my table that read, "You're not alone." He noticed when I was struggling, but he never asked too much. He just stayed. Sometimes I caught him looking at me, and he didn't look away. His eyes held something kind, and I was falling for him. I fought it. Told myself he was just helping, that this wasn't real. But feelings don't care about logic, especially that night. We stayed late after a session. Everyone had left. The lights dimmed, except one lamp above our table. I messed up a problem and groaned. He laughed.
"I couldn't multiply 7 by 8 until junior year."
He said. I laughed too. He looked at me, quiet, focused.
"Mia?"
He began. I looked up. He paused, wanted to say something, but didn't. I couldn't sleep that night. He was in my dreams. The next day, he didn't show up. I waited for him in the library for nearly an hour. I texted, "Where are you?" 2 hours later, he replied, "Sorry, emergency at home. Can we meet tomorrow?" I said yes. He didn't come. A week passed. I saw him in the hallways, in the cafeteria, once by the window, but he didn't approach. I stopped texting. I was scared. Scared that if I reached out again, he'd say it was over. I started thinking maybe I had done something wrong. Maybe I'd made it obvious I liked him. Maybe he got uncomfortable. It was torture, loving silently, losing without explanation. Then one day, I sat alone in the cafeteria like always, pushing food around. And suddenly there he was.
Can you pass the salt?
Nick asked, like nothing happened. I blinked. He took the shaker, sat across from me.
I'm sorry.
He said quietly.
I wasn't myself.
I didn't know what to say. There was a lump in my throat. He mumbled something about family stuff. I nodded, barely listening. What I really wanted to ask was, did you walk away because you saw how I felt? Or because you felt it too? We started sessions again, but something was off. He kept his distance, spoke less, avoided touching anything that was mine. No jokes, no warmth. I felt the wall go up, and I decided to break it. One evening, we stayed behind again. He was explaining a concept, but I wasn't listening. My heart pounded. Nick, I said, I need to tell you something. He froze. I'm not just grateful. You being here means more to me than I can say. I feel something. And I think it's more than I should. Silence. A few seconds that felt like an eternity. He closed the notebook.
Mia, I feel it too. Believe me.
He sighed.
But I'm not allowed to. We can't. It's wrong. I never should have.
He stopped mid-sentence. Who are you, Nick? I whispered. Why do you always act like you're hiding something? His eyes filled with something heavy.
I'm sorry.
And then he left. He didn't return the next day. Or the next. I didn't text. I couldn't beg. But I needed to know. Who was he? Why did he vanish? One afternoon, I saw him talking to the school director. Quietly. Seriously. When I got close, they stopped. The director gave me a look. Nick looked guilty. That night, I searched the school site. I found an old article I hadn't read before. In partnership with local universities, our school is participating in a new program. Graduate students studying psychology are placed undercover in classrooms. Their role is to identify and support students facing isolation, anxiety, and academic pressure. I froze. Read it 3 times. Undercover, graduate students, acting like peers. It all clicked. Nick wasn't a student, not really. He was an adult, a psychology intern, and I was his case. I couldn't breathe. Everything I thought was real. Was it part of an assignment? I texted him, "Is it true?" He didn't reply for nearly a day. Then came, "Yes." And after that, I wasn't supposed to feel anything, but I did. I'm sorry. I cried, more than I ever had. I didn't know what hurt more. That he came into my life as an observer, or that he left the moment it became real. After that night, he was gone. His name was never mentioned. He vanished like he was never there. But something stayed with me. First came pain, then emptiness, and finally, clarity. He walked into my life as an observer, but gave me more than anyone ever had. I stopped hiding in the library, started sitting in the cafeteria. Not because it was easy, but because I realized if I don't let myself be seen, no one ever will. I started speaking up. I even volunteered to solve a problem on the board in math class. The teacher looked surprised. I was shaking, but I did it. And I felt something shift inside. I had changed. I made 2 real friends. One day, I saw a new boy sitting alone and said, "I know what it feels like to be invisible. Want to eat together?" He smiled, and I remembered what Nick had said. When you see others, they start seeing you. 3 months passed. One day, I found an envelope in my mailbox. No return address. Inside, a ticket to the Museum of Mathematics. And a note. His handwriting, "If you still want to talk about integrals, I'll be there. Nick." My heart twisted. Memories came flooding back. The quiet talks, the candy, the looks, the warmth, and the goodbye. I held that ticket for days, put it away, took it out, and finally, I went. I stood outside the museum, people rushed by, laughed, entered. I looked through the glass. Inside, light, exhibits, math, maybe him. I didn't go in. I just stood there and thought, if I go in, what happens? We talk. He looks at me the same way. Maybe he apologizes. Maybe he disappears again. Or maybe he stays. But would I still be myself? I realized I didn't need to know if he was inside. I didn't need him to finish my story. He gave me something no one else could. He saw me when I couldn't see myself. And now, I can. I folded the ticket, put it in my pocket, turned and walked away. I didn't cry. I smiled, softly, quietly. For real, I still think about him sometimes. Not with pain, but with gratitude. Some people enter your life not to stay, but to light a spark and leave. And then you carry that spark forward yourself. Maybe I still love him. Maybe if we met again someday, it would be different. But today, I don't need him to be whole. If you ever feel lost, unseen, unheard, know this. You don't have to be perfect to be worthy. You don't have to be loud to matter. You don't have to change to be loved. I don't know if I'll ever see Nick again. But I know this. I became me.